Hello, good morning, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Many thanks for joining this webinar today. Better Meals for Europe's Children, Pathways to Serving Healthier, Tastier, More Sustainable Foods in Schools, organized by the European Public Health Alliance. So thank you for joining. We're looking at a very rich, exciting program with fantastic speakers, and which I will once more share in the chat, so just in case. My name is Nikolai from EPHA, and I will do my best to ensure the smooth running of today's discussion, aiming to get most of it. And before passing the floor to Milka Sokolović for a quick word of welcome, and to Manuel Franco for setting the scene, I will just do a few very quick points on housekeeping, which usually I think we will be familiar with, but nonetheless good to repeat. First of all, please note that the event is being recorded. Do engage with the speakers. So please use the Q&A function to add questions, comments. Please don't hesitate. That will just enrich our debate. And also feel free to engage on social media as well, with using, for instance, the following hashtags, which are also shared in the chat for making it easy. So the webinar will last for 3 hours. So we have previewed a 5 minutes stretch break after each of the sessions, which I think will be important. Now, without further ado, I will give the work to Milka, EPHA's Director General. So Milka, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, and another warm welcome to everyone. With the event today, we want to explore an important topic, which is how to ensure that all children in Europe can benefit from healthy, sustainable school meals and canteens. There has been much attention lately to the role that public procurement of food can play in transforming the food systems towards better outcomes for health, climate, environmental sustainability, the position of producers in the supply chain, and animal welfare. Public procurement also has a critical social justice function, as it allows our societies to send a clear signal that every child can and should receive the best possible food, regardless of socioeconomic background, helping thereby to bridge the health inequalities gap that remains so wide in Europe, and now taking a whole new turn with the thousands of children fleeing to the EU from the atrocities against human rights committed in Ukraine. This attention to public procurement is justified. Public bodies in the EU spend billions of euros each year on procuring food, and there is general agreement that these resources can be used more strategically. Today, we aim to discuss several angles of this question. The attention public procurement is receiving today is due, in great part, to the amazing initiatives that have been pioneered by many cities and schools across Europe, showing what is actually possible. Inspiration is critical for moving forward, and in our first session today, we will be inspired by what is being done in Europe. We will also learn what lessons these promising initiatives bring for scaling up and scaling out similar approaches. For moving ahead with healthy, sustainable meals and diets, it is critical to understand what these actually are. So the second session will address the immensely important and sometimes sensitive question of what are healthy and sustainable diets for young people, and what implications that has for designing schools' menus and canteens. And we are pleased with having such rich expertise on board to dive deep into this topic. Next, we want to know how to accelerate the uptake of healthy, sustainable meals throughout European schools. For this last session, we will be joined by people who have put lots of thought into this question, and also by guests from the European Commission that are holding the pen for some of the relevant policy initiatives now on the table, especially the Farm to Fork strategy and the strategy on the right of the child. I very much look forward to a fruitful discussion that will help move forward the change we all want to see. And among many initiatives in this space, I further wanted to highlight the Buy Better Food campaign that was launched earlier this month, a collaboration between quite different European and national civil society organizations in a joint push for better public procurement practices. I will leave the link to this initiative in the chat. And just after that, I will be going over to Manuel Franco, who is perfectly placed to set the scene for the discussion today. Manuel is an epidemiologist and associate professor of public health at the University of Alcalá and visiting professor of epidemiology at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. He's also an expert in the EU-funded School for Food for Change project, which in the course of the coming years will be exploring in depth similar topics as during our event today. Manuel, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to EPHA for organizing this very interesting meeting today. It's a true pleasure to be here as part of my career in public health, both in the United States and in Europe, in Spain, but also right now starting this large project, the School Food for Change project that has started just a couple of months ago. And I will be able to share just what the big scope and the aims of this project and the partners of this large project are right now starting to work. So I would like to do this setting of the scene by trying to bring together all these pieces, very important pieces that we'll be listening today from all the invited speakers from a public health point of view. Nikolai, if you can go to the next. Thank you very much. As an urban health researcher, I think that it's extremely important that we realize that most of our children nowadays in Europe, but also most of our children around the planet live in urban settings. So that means that understanding what happens in cities, those urban dynamics, and understanding what is the eating habits and the meals of those children in cities, and translating this knowledge into urban policies is a fundamental piece of what we are doing. Right now, the estimation is that 80% of European citizens will live in urban settings, and for the year 2050, 2/3 of the world population will live and reside in urban settings. So in that sense, I think it's very important that today we will hear about different approaches and different initiatives that have happened in different cities around the globe, and specifically in Europe. Also, I think from my perspective, again, in working on urban food environment for many years now in the United States and here in Europe, I think it's extremely important to realize what the relevance of food systems and within food systems, school food systems. How do we define, how do we approach, how do we really understand how finally the menus in our schools happen to be in such an intricate network of systems that also includes that important piece nowadays of sustainability, not only the health piece. In that sense, I will stress that when I was young and starting my career in public health, all of our focus was on nutritional epidemiology, working on the large cohort studies that had been the classic studies from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, etc., trying to identify what is the dietary patterns that make us healthier. Nowadays, that type of research needs and is absolutely necessary, that takes into account what is the sustainable piece of the food that we finally have in our menus, in our diets. In that sense, also the School Food for Change project puts a very specific focus on what is the public and the school food procurement that really can advance the way that we bring food to our children in the European Union. And in that sense, coming back again to the urban health approach, I think that one thing is what we can do as a nation or as our city in terms of food procurement, but the other one is to have a focus on the actual schools or educational centers, because the way children, adolescents, and even university students eat is very much important nowadays for our children, but also for our youth. In that sense, I think that we must always bear in mind, and I think this is a very important approach by the EU and by the research and innovation projects that I've been collaborating and working with, that we have a clear mind that we live in a highly unequal world nowadays, that we live in highly unequal cities. That's certainly the case of, for example, Madrid, Barcelona, Baltimore, or the cities that we are working right now in the School Food for Change. Specifically, I will be running the health impact assessment in 4 cities in Europe: Madrid, Milano, Vienna, and Umeå in the north of Sweden. And within those cities, there are large inequalities, and these projects, mandates that we very much take into account what the future of those children in need are taken into account and realized. In that sense, we will hear today also for the EU Child Guarantee in a couple of hours, which is extremely interesting. Nikolai, if you can go to the next. So in that sense, the School Food for Change aims to create a shift to both sustainable and healthy diets by impacting 600,000 school children and 30,000 schools in 12 EU countries. Nikolai, if you can go to next. This large project is a project, you can go to the next also, next 2 slides. This is a almost 13 million euros project that includes, as you can see, implementation partners, both at the local governments, provincial, regional networks and associations, and associated partners, both research partners and city leaders. And now we will have a strong piece on communication and outreach that has started right now. Nikolai, if you can go to next, please. So for today, I aim and invite everybody once again to learn from all the speakers today. And I think that this is a very interesting meeting in the sense that brings clearly the interdisciplinarity of this large problem, which is how do we bring better meals and sustainable and healthy meals for our children in Europe. This project or this approach today needs necessarily to be international and to look not only for our nationalities, but also in Europe, but also again internationally to other continents. And we should never forget that the most underserved communities and the vulnerable children are the ones that will benefit the most from these approaches. And this is what we need for a better Europe. So this is the final of my presentation. Thank you very much once again, and let's enjoy the day today.
Thank you so much, Manuel. This was really great, framing public procurement as from a wider picture, like both in terms of urban systems, food environments, of course, of which public procurement is such an integral part, and of course with the emphasis on inequalities, which we'll be coming back to over the day. And obviously we're really keen to follow the School Food for EU project as it will be implemented. So we are over to our first session, What's Cooking in Europe, spotlight on the promising initiatives in cities and schools. So it's time to get inspired further by the great examples that that exist and that are being rolled out. And first of all will be Elena Salazar from the Eating Better Coalition in the UK, which is an alliance of civil society, organizations accelerating actions for less and better meat and dairy for health, environment, animal welfare, and social justice. So Elena, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Nikolai. It's good to be here. Hello, everybody. I am Elena. I lead policy work at Eating Better, which is an alliance of 60 civil society organizations based in the UK. We work collaboratively to develop common positions focused on solutions on issues regarding the food system. We use consensus-based approaches, so we get experts in the field in the UK, and we try and find a solution together that has broad support. Today I'm going to be talking about serving better, and most importantly introducing our video, which gives a good introduction to the project. Serving Better is the outcome of a collaboration of leading UK NGOs working on food across the public sector. So there is ourselves, Eating Better, and other organizations you might know, such as Sustain, the Sustainable Food Trust, WWF UK, Friends of the Earth, and Fourth Pause UK. I think the video will be a good introduction, so if you can play it now, I can follow up with a couple of points of what we have found out through this initiative.
It's really important to win over hearts and minds of your whole community and beyond. So that means all the stakeholders, the parents, the children, the staff and the local authority and everyone you'll be working with, particularly your kitchen staff, obviously. Once you've done that, you can then start to move forward. You can design things together.
If we are committed to taking steps on climate, food buying power, it's the way to go. It's obviously a way to go. And we're seeing that reflected in schools, particularly the young people we talk to. So when we want to have a conversation with young people about food, it's quite interesting that climate is something they really engage with.
We cannot tackle the climate and nature emergencies if we don't tackle food. So we would like local authorities to put food at the centre of their strategies to meet these climate and nature emergencies. Our Serving Better guide shows that this doesn't need to be complicated. It's all about putting strategies in place to serve more vegetables, more pulses, and less and better meat.
There's a lot of good talk about supporting agroecology and how we want more sustainable farming systems and, better land use. But on the other hand, we are absolutely complicit in deforestation in our supply chains. There's this race to the bottom in terms of ever cheaper food. When we're importing cheap food from abroad, it's at the cost of environmental animal welfare standards as well.
I shudder to think of some of the meat that we were serving in schools by really selling the vegetarian meals and then balancing those with really good quality meat on the 2 days that we do meat.
And this is the corn, which is a good alternative to meat. Once it's spiced up and everything, you don't really notice the difference. We've made the changes gradually by introducing different ways of cooking vegetables. I've been here in school meals about 40 years, and when we started, it was just steaming and boiling. Let that soften a bit before I add the garlic. The positives are we've learned different cooking skills, different ways of cooking with herbs and spices that make it more interesting. And with the technical side, it's opened our knowledge of food. Samir's vegetable samosas.
To the whole food model across the school, and we looked at the menus, and we were able to balance by having 2 vegetarian days, 2 meat days and a fish day. We were able to create an affordable menu that was sourced from very high quality producers without increasing the overall cost of a school meal. to be able to have a school meal that's cooked fresh on site every day is really important for our children's education.
You can eat a nice food. The fish is good and it's healthy, and the chips are homemade. It's good and healthy for you, and it keeps you nice and it keeps you strong.
Where we learn as the adults, we can pass it on to the children as well, which is better for everybody in the long term. And this is the aim of sustainable food and eating healthily.
It is possible to change your food for the better and to do it for no extra cost. And I think if the drive is there among school governors, school leaders, local authorities to make that happen, then our children will get better food, and in the future will be healthier, and in the end will be a less of a cost on our health service.
If you set up an ambition for contract caterers or whoever's bidding to compete, to do the best for children rather than the cheapest, great things happen. And with that, of course, meal numbers go up, more children are eating great food, and the economies of scale mean that it's financially viable as well.
We need to grow more locally and have those local supply chains. And I think what's been happening lately in terms of the crisis in our food supply chains demonstrates that even more than in the past. But we need local authority caterers to be properly resourced. We then need those networks where they can access the fresh fruit and veg within a reasonable travelling distance.
Yes, you may have the tomato.
Simple swaps to recipes to put more vegetables on the menu can have a huge impact in reducing carbon emissions. Local authorities and other public institutions serve hundreds of thousands of meals every month, so the impact of rolling this out across the country would be massive.
Okay, so now I just wanted to say a couple of points about the initiative. This initiative was born of a desire to support councils who wanted to do something about the climate. We've got a number of councils in the UK that have declared a climate and nature emergency, and very few of them knew what to do with regards to food. So we got together to give a clear strategy and a clear set of guidelines of what could be done through food procurement. In terms of what we have found that works, we thought that focusing on specific strategies that are manageable worked really well. Giving short-term targets that are very clear for us. It was a 25% reduction in meat, probably by having meat-free days once or twice a week, a 25% shift towards meat and dairy that's produced to a better standard, and overall just giving more of a focus to the diet. It's grounded on an understanding of what healthy diets are, and understanding that children in the UK just don't eat enough vegetables, so any help we can give them to up their vegetable intake is a good thing. In terms of the main challenges that we have encountered, I would say these are specifically three things. One is around measurements. So quite often the local organizations have found that at council level, it is public health that is the driving force for school food, and there is less of a capability to measure outcomes for environmental gains. So that's one key challenge. Another one is around the perception that moving to giving more vegetables in school meals might be bad for local farmers, that it might affect the local economy negatively. So that's also something that we address. And the third one is around cost. So you saw on the video that the head teacher was saying that you are able to do this in a way that doesn't cost more. And we know this is possible, but it requires a lot of care, and it requires finding new strategies to do it. So there is a little bit of upskilling in that sense. But overall, reception has been really positive, and we see this moving sort of and growing in the next few months and year in the UK. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elena. And I think this was really inspiring. And I looking at the Q&A, I think others found that too. That's really a fantastic initiative and great work. So I will just invite everyone to kind of think of your questions, comments, and so on, and add them to the Q&A, and we will do a discussion after the three speakers in this session. So thanks a lot, Elena. Stay put, because we will have some further debate after. And I would now very much like to move to our next speaker, Lidón Martrat Sanfeliu, who is operational coordinator on urban food policies at Barcelona City Council. And Lidón was, amongst others, coordinating activities in Barcelona when it was the world capital of sustainable food in 2021. Welcome, Lidón, and we'll be putting up your slides. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye. Well, good morning, all. Thank you for this inspiring and wonderful journey. It is really interesting, and we can. I'm sure we're going to be able to share a lot of interesting points of view today. Well, today I'm here to present an initiative that we have been working past year in Barcelona City Council between the public health agency of the city and the food policy area. Next slide, please. The project is about accompany the school canteens to shift their model, the framework of the school canteens. No, there was a previous project from the public health agency. It was really based in the focus was in health, and it was a lack of the focus of sustainability in the program. And we have started this project just last year in the framework of the capitality of Barcelona, and the thing was to introduce this point of view of sustainability, to start talking about healthier and sustainable school canteens, not just healthier school canteens, and with these main objectives, to achieve healthier diets and to combat Barcelona's climate emergency. Barcelona makes the declaration of climate emergency last year too, and to strengthen local economy. These 3 points of view, that all of them are interrelated. The healthier diets drive to strengthen local economy. If we introduce this kind of products, local products, biological products in the canteen, and work together with all the actors and with the producer. Next slide, please. We have started with 46 schools, and that's about 12% of all the canteens school in the city. Well, the proposed budget is based on the recommendations of World Health Organization of what is a health diet, and based on the healthy eating plate of Harvard, with more vegetables, with less and better meats, and adjusting what are the proteins in the first plate and second plate. Next slide, please. We see in this project the school canteen as a transformative space. We work for this. We have been working with all the educational community. From the institutional part, we were working here together. The area of food policy, as I have said, health personnel of the public agency of the public health, dietitian, nutritionist, specialist in training and sustainability, and the education department also. No? We have been working with cooks, with monitors, with catering canteens, with children, and we have selected in a participatory way main topics, main issues that we wanted to address as health, social and cultural habits in the school canteens, how can we work with the producers, making plans together, planifying the production to serve the canteens, to work the economy and how you manage the management of the canteen, to adjust the prices, to demonstrate, as we have seen in the previous video too, that it is possible to serve this kind of meals and a good price if you do a good management of the commands, of the relation with the producers, and you adjust the menus too. By serving less meat and more vegetables, you adjust the price too, and introduce this topic of the impact of our menus or our food in the climate topic. Next slide, please. And well, how do we work with the schools? We have an approach, methodological approach, and that is by phases. No, we start doing a diagnosis, working with all the community, the educational community, to guarantee their commitment or their participation, and that's a key point that I want to focus on, the participation of all the community and the commitment of all the agencies key for this process. As you need to make sure that they are committed before starting the program. And with this first diagnosis, we adapt an action plan for each canteen, for each school, and then we work with groupal sessions to address all the common topics we have identified in the diagnosis that are key to work with all the centers, and when with another final phase of evaluation. We have worked in a lot of materials and papers and communication products to work with all the schools and the educational community. And the main is a guide of the transformation of school canteens that is nourished with all the knowledge we have been acquiring in this past year. And this guide wants to make easier the path of all for all the schools that want to start to make a transformation of the canteen. No? Then training and information is a key point of the program. We have been doing different sessions by groups and by main topics of work. No? I've been working with families to break myths and propositions for dinners too. Break myths about vegetarian menus, about the need of reducing meat, etc. And we're working with teachers and schools to raise awareness of this topic. They don't need to be experts on this. It's not their work, but it's important that they have awareness of the importance of the impact of their school canteens, no? in the local economy, in the environment, and in the health of the children. Of course, with catering enterprises, they're a key actor in the project, because as I've seen in the previous video, it's the same case for us. No, some of them, the cooks especially, they have the habit to boil and it's it, and they need to acquire a lot of skills to work with fresh products, with seasonal products, new recipes. That's important to make to have a good result in the meal, because at the end, if children they don't find it savorous and good, and with a good savor and flavor, you're going to find more resistance. And then the work specific with cooks, not technical data and sheets for the dishes. Next slide, please. Finally, I wanted to address key points and challenge for the future. No, I have been saying some of them. Communication to families for me is key. We have found at the beginning some care resistance of families, especially with the reduction of meat. We have this idea, no, in our country that if children doesn't eat meat, doesn't be well nourished, and you need to address that. That was the main resistance when you start to shift the diet with more vegetables. So the families need to be previously informed. You need to work with them, and you need to introduce the changes gradually, little by little. And then a key point is a continuous diagnosis and evaluation. No, we have previous pilot with 6 schools that have allowed us to learn a lot of things and adjust a lot of things of the program as this key point that I was focusing on, of the families and the information and the working with the families. No, and a good monitoring, it's needed, no, to have a good detection of needs and have a school by school approach. No, the schools need to be accompanied from their needs, not from. We have a general framework, we have a general guide, but then they need a specific following up. No, so at the same time you do a one-by-one following up. It's necessary to make available good replicable protocols, no, of how to cook the dishes, how to work with families, how to work with the monitors and with people working during the eating time with children, no, and then what I was saying, no, to facilitate the participation in decision making. The school is the one that have to make their own plan, make their own rhythm, and their changes has to be accorded within all the educational community and at the rhythm that the educational community decides. If you want to go too fast, you will fail. That's a really good learning that we have made in this previous pilot too. Well, the initial training is K2, no, to choose the K axis, to train every group or every K actor addressing their specific needs, no. Well, there are K documents that you need to do, no, that like a good guide, like a good transformation guide with all the phases and with inspirations of the main actions you need to address and in which order is good to address, which are the K actions, which are secondary actions that you need to just to transform your canteen. No, and then communication documents, no, as infographies that you can use in the canteen or in different spaces of the school to address messages that accompany the necessary cultural change that you need to go keep on working with children, with their families too. No? And a key point of a success of this program for us too was the work, the interdisciplinary work, no, the technical office we have built on inside the Barcelona City Council between all these specialists. That has been the key to address all the key axes of the program that are needed to transform the canteen with this whole approach, no, and interdisciplinary approach. And that's all. Thank you very much for
Thank you so much, Lidón, and also for these really clear and comprehensive recommendations. And I don't know, it's just striking to me and really inspiring also to see that in a way there's so much similarity across different geographies, really, just before UK, now with these innovative approaches.
I was surprised too.
Yeah, so it's really great. And I see there's lots of good questions coming in, so keep on going. And I give the floor to Andrea now. And Andrea Magarini is coordinator of Milan's food policy, which is part of the mayor's office, and is also chairing the working group on food at Eurocities, which is the European body of many municipalities. And of course, Milan is known as the heart of food policy in Europe in many ways. So please, Andrea, really glad to have you here.
Thank you, Nikolai, for my invitation. And okay, so thank you also for sharing the slide. So I'm very happy to be here with all of you to sharing our experiences on managing school canteens and more in detail on the initiatives that are allowing us to cutting greenhouse gas emissions with our school meals. So next slide. Milan developed, as Nikolai mentioned, a food policy in 2015 by working with a lot of different actors, from researchers to private sector, from NGOs to other public institutions, and we are trying to innovate our food system, starting from our public services that are managed by the municipality or by municipal agencies. And school canteens is one of these cases, because since many years we have this municipal agency named in Italian Milano Ristorazione that prepare per day 85,000 meals through 26 cooking centers in more than 400 of canteens. Here you can see in the map of the entire city how these services were spread all around the different neighborhoods. So it's a system in which all the child of Milan are part of these municipal services, and we manage the entire supply chain from the central stock center to the school canteens. Next slide. When we approved the food policy in 2015, we start to innovate with new pilot activities. This service, we start also to activate some nudging activities, like a program that anticipates in the break in the classroom direct the fruit. And in this program, we engage 20,000 children, and in the next year we will also transform our system by having these new activities as one of the mandatory activities to implement this system. We also activate some monitor and some test through this target to understand how we are changing their relation with the fruits by having this kind of opportunity daily. All the fruits are organic, are in certain way also from a short supply chain when it's possible, and is a program that are trying also to change the food habits. Next slide. We also trying to have a big shift among our public procurement system. Because by introducing a new recipes, change one raw materials in an existing recipes, we are trying to shift our system toward more plant-based options, toward more plant-based diets. And so we try to substitute the beef and pork with poultry that is more sustainable, with legumes, with tubers, and we are we have the opportunity to change each 6 months our menu, and by changing our menu, we are all the time innovate with one single small changing within the entire system of these school canteens, well spread all around the cities. And after 5 years of these small changes, this is the results: plus 20% of tubers, plus 18 for legumes, and the other are here written. We not just work alone between the municipality with its municipal agency, but also we are trying to having this approach, sharing with other partners like the Caribou Foundation, that is one of the most important grant maker in Milan, that innovate our system by launch new research on this topic. We have a work done with the World Research Institute, with the EPHA Foundation, with the WHO, in order to be very aligned with the different guidelines that are present on this topic. Next slide, please. And we also try to commit ourselves to reduce the food-related emission by 25% by 2030, starting from the data from 2015. Next slide. Here is the baseline of 2015 that divided all of our procurement between beef, lamb, other animal-based food, plant protein, and other plant food. And you can see the division in the first cake, the state at the 2015, and then in 2019. And you can see that by transferring the total tons on food purchases in GHG emission, something are changing. In the next slide, you can see that the quantity are changing, because the quantity is more or less the same, about 8,000 tons per year. But the small changes are tackling the specific kind of food. And in the next slide, you can see our reduction of CO2. So in just 5 years, we were able to reduce for the 20% the entire emission of our public procurement, because animal-based protein are more food-related emissions rather than plant-based. And so we are also speaking to children with kind of activities. We are speaking with parents with all of this changing. And if in 2015 we started with a lot of changing by decided to avoid it immediately, the red meat, to avoid it immediately, the animal-based protein, maybe some protests from the parents are happening. But our idea was to have these 5 years of activities to engaging all the stakeholders, so parents, municipal staff, municipal agency staff, our public health authority, and also in certain way children, in speaking and to present our approaches, and at the end also presenting the results. This is a very huge quantity of tons of CO2 equivalent of reduction, about 50,000. And the idea is to maintain this kind of activities, also try to tackling other kind of services. In the next slide, you can see our approaches, the benchmark among the participants of the initiative of monitoring, because we don't monitor this changing alone, but we are entering in an initiative that is named Cool Food Pledge, leading by the World Research Institute, the WRI, in which are participating canteens from hospitals, canteens from private sector, and also from cities. And on the city level are part of this system Milan, Copenhagen, Washington, DC, Toronto, and Ghent. And here is the benchmarking among the different participants of this initiative. Based on 1,000 of kilocal. And in the next slide, you can see our approach is also to monitor the children appreciation, that in certain way are some barriers, because If we want to have the more appreciated menu, we need to share just pizza and chips, but it's not health and is not allowed also. But working with the approach to balance the appreciation of children to the food-related emission, to the health, so environment topic, to the health approach in certain way, in our intention, works very well. We are trying to innovate more this system by exploiting our participation to European projects. And one fully related to this topic is School Food for Change, that was already mentioned before the meeting, which we want also to understand ourselves and to think how we can activate some nudging activities, some food designing activities by training our cook staff, also focusing our attention on the meals that are more healthy, more sustainable, but not so appreciated, like the legumes cake. And working in this way, we think that after next 5 years, we can achieve more new innovative goals in our food system of Milan. Thank you again for my invitation, and I'm very happy to be part of the Q&A. Thanks, Nikolai, up to you.
Fantastic, Andrea. Thanks so much. Really great. And it's, you seem to have an amazing monitoring system in place, which was highlighted. You've done a lot of accounting. That's maybe an interesting thing also, well, eventually to share how you've been doing that, because that seems to have come out as one of the challenges, or at least an important thing, obviously, to have and do. We have quite a few great questions. I would just ask the panelists, the speakers in this session, just to come to the together. And just considering time, I would like to maybe cluster the questions into 4, and I would just like to come back to each of you for a few minutes for your reflections on any of them, which you find, or on a few of them. And like one of them, one cluster of questions was clearly around the issue of inequalities, and how do you account, or how do you actually, in a way, target to ensure that these inequalities are really addressed, and also maybe with a view on whether you see some scope to enlarge the reach of this public procurement, given the increasing food prices that we're facing today, but also kind of a lot of people coming in now into Europe, which are quite often in vulnerable situations linked to the crisis, of course. A second point was around acceptance. So both among children in terms of the new foods, and among parents, where this idea of healthy, sustainable meals is healthy, okay, but sustainable meals might kind of raise questions. And how were your experience there? A third set of questions was really about guidelines. So both in do you have guidelines for nutrition and sustainable nutrition in place? And if so, does that help? And I think, Andrea, a specific question for you regarding the green public procurement law in Italy. In how far did this help this revolution, as the question giver said? And as a last question is again the question of cost. So what are strategies to keep the costs down, essentially? So I know it's a lot. There's a lot in here. So I would just invite you to really, for a few quick reflections on any of these, essentially. So starting with Elena.
Those were a lot of questions, Nikolai. I suppose I can start with the last one, which is about cost. which I think links up to the question with regards to guidelines. I think both with regards to cost and with regards to guidelines, it's really important to give people clear strategies, things that you can do that work to keep costs down and to make those diets that you're serving in schools healthier, and to make sure that the food that you are serving has been produced to a decent standard. So for us, those specific strategies were to reduce the amount of meat in dishes, increase the amount of vegetables, put a minimum serving for pulses every week. It is about trying to source locally, although I must say that on that specific point, the infrastructure to support that isn't always there for the local council to source locally and to get the level of food that they would like. But it is sort of focusing on those really simple, really specific strategies. You could talk about having more vegetarian days in a week. You could talk about reducing meat portions by half. You could talk about specific reductions in the number of meat dishes in a week. There are ways that you can do it. So rather than talking about it in an abstract way, just talk about specific ways that you might be able to do it.
Great, thanks so much. I see lots of new questions coming in. You please also have a look at the Q&A session, because some of them are really sort of directed to you. But Lidón, if you want to come in on any of these points or the clusters of questions.
Yeah. Regarding to cost and what Elena was saying, which I agree totally, we are working in this direction too. I wanted to explain an experience we have here at regional level in Catalonia. It's a network of enterprises that manage canteens, school canteens, and producers, local producers, and making sure this chain and supporting from the institutions, public institutions, this kind of alliances and initiatives. It's a good I think strategy to lower the costs. No, this alliance and this network is supplying 80 schools, for the instance, and managing the planification of the production and eating seasonally products and local products, and reducing meat, of course. And they are achieving, and they are allowing us to show them as experience that is demonstrating that is it possible. No? We need to support this kind of experience to demonstrate that it's possible to manage a school canteen at a lower prices. That's all. I'd like to focus on a very specific strategy.
Okay, thanks a lot, Andrea. If you want to come in on any of these points.
Yes. Thank you. So starting from guidelines, we are fully aligned to the WHO guidelines for ministry guidelines, and also in Italy we have the regional authority for public health that establish their own guidelines, but in certain way are the more concrete to support the school canteens to develop all of these kind of activities. And rather than the fact that are based on the regional approaches, all the public authorities in our region are contributing to innovate those kind of guidelines. So in certain way, Milan is working within these revisions of these kind of guidelines. A lot of topics are happening in my mind on the topic of cost, price, and so on. Maybe we can deliver a fully webinar on this. Maybe it can be an idea for Nikolai, because it's very interesting, and in certain way it's also a very important barriers of some thoughts that also we shared. And on the topic of price, that are different from the topic of cost, there are happening a game-changing situation in the 30 days before for this webinar. So we are seeing some some issues that we have no idea to how we can manage until now. In the next months, for sure, we can have a strategy, an idea. But if the price of energy are increasing of more than 200% in few days, you can imagine that all of the suppliers are trying to ask to the procurement department to change their contract or to suspend their contract. And this is crazy because a system very complex, as I mentioned, cannot be changed in 13 days. So more on the topic of the cost of energy rather than the cost of the price of food. And also on the topic of how we are moving our food in our city. We have a float of 140 vans, and the cost of energy on that specific part is very important. Speaking about cost, we have 77 million euros per year that are the cost of the services of school canteens. On the 55% is paid by the municipality, so by the entire budget of a municipality, and 45%, so half more or less, by parents, divided in 5 different categories based on their income. The lower part of this kind of classification is free, access free, and is speaking about inequality. That was one of the other questions. And I'm very appreciate in one of the presentation before of our session, the mentioning of the youth child guarantee, because within the youth child guarantee, there is a big part on allowing access of school meal free per each day of school. And it's very important on that specific topic. There are 7 European countries that are playing as pilot test. Italy, Spain are 2 of them. And we think that we need to be very concretely to try to align the level of access free to school canteens to the level in which we are sharing food aid to people in needs in our cities. We are in the framework of European Social Fund, and so from one side we have a lot of level of income, and on the other hand very few kind of access to healthy to free access to meals to school canteens. So our topic that are discussing in these months in European Union, and so the school canteens are part of this system.
Thank you, Andrea. And I think, as you said, each of these questions actually deserves a whole full event and a whole discussion. But we have to go on. So I would really like to thank you very much for this, really fantastic explanation and kind of show of what you have been doing and will be continuing to do. And I will, and please also have a further look at the Q&A, because there's still a lot of great questions in there which you might be able to provide some thoughts to. I think that would be really appreciated. So we will break for a few minutes and to be back at 11:05, just to stretch a little before our next session. So thanks so much, and see you soon in just a few minutes.